meditation.
It's a good way to start, clearing the throat. Well, good morning. Good afternoon. It's already afternoon here. Hi, Melanie.
Hi. 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 Good morning. Afternoon.
Afternoon. Finally arriving here. You can see behind.
What happened to David? He was in the picture? He's gone.
He's right here,
Oh, good.
fiddling around as usual.
So here we are, a raft full of people, and behind on the mantle is the raft, surrounded by two Buddhists.
Yeah.
And,
Actually, do you know that there are 9 Buddhists there and there's 9 of us?
Huh. Perfect.
good. Plus,
Yeah.
that's good. So today, I want to talk about developing our consciousness, and which we all know a lot about because of how long we've lived, but get into the details of it a little bit and examine loss and impermanence along with that. So, the consciousness of human beings, with each of us, it differs because of our knowledge and experiences. And as we know, as we live in this body, the more experience we have, the more knowledge we have. Our consciousness gets broader and deeper. And knowledge and understanding develops for this consciousness, and that has the ability to see objects of eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and objects of mind, or thoughts, the concepts, the ideas that we get to encounter. And when the necessary causes and conditions are met, the scope and object of knowledge increases and understanding deepens. And this is how the mind develops its full potential. The all-knowing wisdom arises from consciousness, and it too is a result of causes and conditions. It's not a spontaneous, ever-present, happening everywhere thing. It is a result of causes and conditions that arise when we take care and examine and participate in these ways of developing our consciousness. And then at some point it ripens and opens. All things arise because of causes and conditions. And the reality of our life is often when we look through the lenses of how we feel, of what we believe, of what we want to see, of what we want to be. And it is through this practice of contemplation, of meditation, of a practice that we share with others, with friends, spiritual friends, and we take the time and examine what is behind what we feel, what we believe, what we see, and we can trust this process that expands our knowledge and our mental experience, and it helps us see the bigger picture. So through the direct experience of causes and conditions, we can even deeply examine the linkage of all things. I want to use the example of going to a grocery store. And typically we go to the grocery store with a list, what's on the list, and we go and find the peppers and the carrots, the Brussels sprouts, the eggs. We put them in the basket. We go to the checkout stand and put them in a bag and bring them home. And to go to the grocery store and appreciate when we see the grocer actually stacking the apples carefully in a pattern that's appealing, and stacking the peppers and the cucumbers, and we take one and it changes the shape of that whole pile. And if we take a moment, the clerks are restocking the vegetables, which are on a cart in boxes that came from a truck that backed into the store, a truck that came from a distribution center that received these boxes of product from a collection field for the spinach and the carrots and the beets, and they were put into boxes, but those came from the fields that were cultivated by farmers and pulled and picked and sorted and packaged by those field workers who took care to water the fields and plant the seeds, cultivate the ground. They left home early in the morning and left their families so that they could be there before dawn to do this work. This work that had to also integrate and mix with the elements of earth, the air, the atmosphere, the clouds, the groundwater conditions, the atmospheric conditions. So the rain was useful in flooding the fields to nurture the seeds, to make it sprout, so these things could work its way to the grocer and the grocery cart and to the place where we pick them up. So we can extend this to the sun and the moon and the rest of our solar system and our immediate galaxy and the countless galaxies of the entire universe. In my own experience of working with the earth, working with dirt or soil, from the tiny particles to bigger pieces of gravel or cobbles or boulders, and imagining what I would do when I get some of these that would fit into a shovel, is imagine all the different places they came from the mountaintops down the rivers to the floodplains, and to maybe even be uplifted into where it rested when I encountered it with my shovel. So when the necessary conditions are met, the scope and the object of knowledge increases and understanding deepens. And with this, our mind develops its full potential, and that's why it is important to take the time to examine the linkages. It is through this process of meditating together, of being with friends who also like to do that, that we cultivate the fertile ground to examine all that rises in our life. It nourishes the development of our heart mind. It broadens our knowledge through the ripening of causes and conditions and more experiences that spark the insights of wisdom the seeds and fruit of wisdom, that we get to directly experience these wisdom seeds, the fruit, again and again, when we take care of these causes and conditions. And that is why this practice and being with Sangha is so important. So at the core, we know that each being has this potential to develop this consciousness through knowledge and experience and reflection and deliberation, contemplation. So when we encounter loss in our life, I want to use the grocer's example again, that when the atmosphere is full of moisture and the clouds are in the sky, the clouds lose their moisture when they cool, and the moisture condenses into rain, and the rain falls, and the raindrops, each is unique, and each life of a raindrop doesn't last that long, and it eventually either evaporates in the air or hits the ground and splatters and begins its next journey. The cloud, not being sentient, as far as I know, doesn't feel the loss. The ground may feel the gain as its quality changes and the ground gets saturated and oversaturated and begins to flow. When the plants produce the seeds and the seeds are collected, the plants may feel the loss of the seeds. Where are the seeds that were here? But the seeds begin their journey, and the potential of the seed is lost when water hits its condition to make the seed sprout and grow. And the fields experience the loss when the product begins to be picked and moved to other places. And it gets transported to these other places. So a truck is empty and gets full, and when the truck full of goods goes to the grocery store, does the cargo container feel the loss when suddenly it is empty? And then these boxes, they come in on a cart, and the grocer starts pulling the product out of the boxes. Does the box feel lost, that, oh my God, these beautiful products are gone from this box? And then the box is empty, and the grocer collapses it and discards it. Does it give the box its proper death, or is it just part of that chain? So for us, with this consciousness we have a tendency to hold on. In the world, in the universe, this process of transformation, of changing causes and conditions is something that naturally happens effortlessly, continuously, some on a slow scale, some on a very rapid scale. Yet for us that have this mind and this heart, the loss is one of the most difficult experiences to accept. And it is through our contemplation and meditation that we can examine the causes and conditions, examine our perspective on these causes of loss, the conditions of loss, examine our reactions to the causes and conditions, and we come to understand the fullness and meaning, the reality of what we call loss. It is through loss that the clear examination of this loss helps us guide our way forward to the next breath, to the next action, to seeing the current conditions of being. For example, with a job, to know the necessity of the job, that what the job entails and what it's like to work with the people that are there. And in talking with some people, like they have the best job they've ever had because of the colleagues they get to work with. Precious team of people to be with. And others who are so stressed by the job that it makes them unhealthy, so they need to change the job. If they worry about the loss of the job, but they need to pay attention to take care of their health, to change their conditions. And each of those ways of moving forward to look at the conditions, helps us with the decisions and the next assessment that this body needs to make. So this Sangha, the Deep Bow Sangha, knows at its core that each being has this potential of awakening with the right causes and conditions, latent or manifest potential of our Buddha nature. And this is what guides us to what we do. So with the loss in our life, I suggest that we look at it deeply. What appears as loss is, on the other hand, perhaps gain somewhere else. So with the examination of loss, to be generous in how we consider it, tender about it, and generous to those surrounded by the loss. And we bring our open-heartedness to it, an open mind, so that in the next moment, wisdom can arise and be ready to be experienced and shared. And we feel the deep, deep connection with this universe we're all a part of. So, thank you. I'd like to hear from you.
Thank you, Sensei Doug.
Sensei Frank.
This exposition of the Dharma to give us the widest angle of causes and conditions, for me, created an experience of seeing that core principle all the way out to the universe and going with the seeds and the DNA and down to the electrons at both ends is a mystery. So when you get to the entire universe, all the galaxies, 13.7 billion years across, if you ask, and beyond that, and no one has an answer. No one has any information. It is all a mystery. And at the other end, when you get down to the waves and particles, and they aren't things anymore, they are probabilities. Down that chain of causes, again, it becomes a mystery, like the two Buddhas on either side of the raft. Those are just representations of the mystery at each end of causes and conditions.
Okay.
So for me, this immensity of scale, causes and conditions, emotionally supports me in seeing the causes and conditions in my life and calls upon compassion for myself. And with that, I feel compassion for all sentient beings. We're all on the same raft. Some of us have the great good fortune to be on a raft that's somewhat knit together and is called a Sangha. And I love the Sangha. I love the Sangha. I love the Sangha.
What this brings to mind, thank you for, I was kidding in the beginning, but it was very moving for me. And I've actually seen you time and again demonstrate in your own behavior, whether you do something or you don't do something. I've seen you demonstrate the patience with which you understand this. And what this brings to mind is that Ram Dass awakened to I don't know, and he became awake. So this is a guy who had a ton of LSD, obviously, and so on. I think it was with mushrooms, I'm pretty sure, that he awakened to I don't know. This is a guy who's a professor at Harvard. So he goes to the lecture that he was scheduled to give, and he stood there in front of the big, theater, whatever it was, the auditorium, and he said, I don't know. And I'm going to tell you that none of your professors know either. Mm-hmm. And his main message is, of course, we all know, is be here now. Sorry. Oh, I'm just hearing you. Yeah. Be here now. So there is, to Frank's point, the mystery, I don't know. And then as we let go and surrender into I don't know, we don't need to know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we do need to know. So we and we keep examining, keep experiencing.
Yeah. Yeah.
John.
I read Ram Dass Be Here Now in high school, and Alan Watts, the book, and I believe that those individuals are much like a grocer or farmer. Like Hidden Villa produces all kinds of produce, vegetables and fruits, and I think those individuals bring in nutrients for our consciousness, and a bunch of elements from around the world that they learned about, and it helps all of us be more conscious and connected. And I'm loving the Ram Dass book again. It's magical. And yeah. I'm also listening to the Alan Watts book I listened to in high school. I read called the book, The Taboo of Against Knowing Who You Are, is the subtitle. But all those elements and nutrients they bring to our minds are like having a wonderful meal being prepared. Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
David?
David?
Yeah, I think a number of things this is brought to mind. One is that my father used to always love to marvel at the fact that all of the elements on the periodic table are created when star dies. And another thought that it comes to mind when you say it's okay not to know, it's okay not to know. And we don't need to insert religious dogma to describe something that is unknown and unknowable, and we don't need to know, and that's okay. Yeah, so thank you. And it also just thinking about your metaphor makes me also think about something I think about a lot, which is that everything is multidimensional. Every conversation, everything, every interaction, there are many dimensions to that. It can never be boiled down into a black and white, and it makes existence challenging sometimes, but I think it's important to recognize just how interconnected and complex everything really is, and how multidimensional everything is. Yeah.
And it's important to do that again and again. You know, the realization of it is through the re-examination of it again and again. And then the more we do it, the more it becomes ever present in whatever next action we do. It's like, oh my God, this multidimensionality is right here. What possibilities? It's just remarkable.
It can make other people crazy who are looking for simple answers, like if only they did this, but it's not as simple as that. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
David, the point that you're making brings to mind how important we are to each other, vitally important. That we truly are interdependent on each other. And when that is not recognized or not lived, you know, a great pain is caused when we forget. It talks to Doug's concept of loss. In my mind, that connects. you know. So like you and I forgot how profoundly important we were to each other. You know, we forgot. And when we rediscovered, I became profoundly happy.
Mm. Well, I'm glad.
Yeah.
I would describe it differently. I would say it's not about forgetting, it's about growing. It's internalizing and growing.
Yes.
I don't, for me, I don't feel like, yeah, anyway, that's my thought. My response to that is that it's,
I like that.
yeah, it's
I
more
like
about
that.
processing and growing and, yeah, and reemerging.
And we much. Yeah.
Yeah. We all go through that to different degrees with everybody in our life, right?
Yes.
Um, at
And
different
loss
times,
and
or different lengths and so on, right?
Yeah.
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 Yesterday in the early morning, I looked out the kitchen window into the front garden area and saw a squirrel there, rapidly digging a little hole between the plants. And it had a certain degree of cuteness, preciousness, nature to it. And I just went from the sink over to the kitchen table to pick up my phone to come back to film it. I would say it took about 4 to 5, maybe 6 seconds. Came back, was pushing the camera thing to get the video up, and I looked up, and the squirrel was gone, and the earth was flat.
Right.
In that amount of time, it had buried its nut for the winter and smoothed, all the dirt was back in, and smoothed the silk. You could not see where it had been disturbed. And the experience of that whole natural process occurring at a speed that I could appreciate, not nanoseconds, enough to see that an entire phenomenon took place, and that I know from what I've read, the studies that were done at Harvard or somewhere, where they mapped where all the squirrels were burying the nuts under snow, so there were no landmarks, and how they would come back in the spring, and they had some GPS or geolocation device. Squirrels knew right where they were in the melted ground. To about 98% accuracy. And so practicing, sitting in meditation, part of what I experience is I go back through the processes of amness and impermanence of I am. I have a lifetime, I have an incarnation. Presently, I do not know when that will end. It could be this afternoon, tomorrow. It could be some time from now. It is an indeterminate amount of time, but knowing causes and conditions, I have absolute faith that it is a quantifiable quantity, and that causes and conditions, the experience of self keeps arising in the moment. It's a set of electrical impulses in what we now know as the default mode network, which can be blown apart by psychedelics or an illuminating experience. And the practice of meditation, the inquiry of just sitting and observing the self arising as a phenomenon out of causes and conditions in the brain, begins to give me peace about the who am I question. What am I? It begins to have less gravity than being here now and being with you all in the Sangha. So that becomes a real relative truth that I live. And that is then it feeds back into the loop of practicing the Dharma, which brings the peace, which is the liberation from the suffering that occurs from the untrained mind. And the mind that has the illusions. So I find that being with Sangha helps me remember having a place to practice and being encouraged to do so is a great benefit. John comes and assumes and carries the role of service of the tea. And there is a joy, and like in meditation retreats, there's someone who's the timekeeper and someone who is these roles that help hold the container for practice. Really are the nutrients for where love can grow.
Yeah. You're right.
I'm going to share something private with you. There is, in the thought of conditions and as they are, and things born from conditions, yes, it is, they are. There's no argument about that. There is such a thing as laws to the universe and everything else, but I'm going to tell you my experience, my personal experience, that our consciousness is not subject to causes and conditions. Because I was on the other side, and my consciousness was infinitely more aware than it is right now. And I'm actually going to tell you that 5 years ago I looked at Frank, and he was losing weight, and he was walking like this, and he was engaged with with his health. And I looked at him in a journey, and I could see it very clearly. I could see where his mind was, and I could see that his mind was influenced by information as a doctor, that he's this many years old and he's got this many years to live and has this kind of a condition and this kind of a thing, and that his mind lived like he's dying. he was dying in his mind. He was disengaging. And I, in my very mild-mannered way, said, you are going, you are dying, and I'm not going to support you through this. You're going to have to do this alone, or you're going to decide to live. To be with me, you're going to have to decide to live. And you're going to have to forget what you know. And you're going to have to embrace life and live it. And he's changed. Took a little while, but you can all see how different he looks. Those of you that have known him for a while. He is surrounded with relationships that didn't exist. People call him, he stays on the phone, he giggles, he laughs. He's no longer embedded in a magazine. A radical change. And it's all because of me. No, I'm kidding. No, but it was because of seeing, it's like, and so this conversation about causes and conditions, it's true. And our mind is infinitely more powerful than that. Our non-DMN mind is infinitely more powerful than that. Right?
Right.
Can we call you Clark Kent?
Truly. I mean, you didn't know him 5 years ago. I'm telling you. Yeah.
Mhm.
Melanie.
Yes. I want to speak to a period of time that both David and I had the honor and the privilege to have just at that point entered each other's lives. I believe it was very shortly after Frank had shifted where he was and what he then became. So I'm so grateful to have been part of that beginning journey of yours, Frank. Thank you.
Rachel?
Thank you so much for this topic today and your insight and wisdom in the platform that it provides for me, for each of us to reflect. And I've been spending my moments here taken with this concept of loss that you kind of honed in on at the beginning, and just sort of grappling a little bit with it, the notion of loss, and then how it's inevitable, and yet the suffering around it is not. I mean, it is inevitable, but it's not necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm just sort of emerging to, I'm thinking about all of the things and the, like myself as a younger person and the energy that I had, the curiosity and the drive that I had as a younger person. John and I as a younger couple, you know, and the, you know, all of those things that you reflect on it. Well, I reflect on in life about, you know, being chapters in my life that I've lost. And of course, I've grown, and I know, you know, it's not about regret, but, and then I think about people I've lost, or animals, or belongings that I've lost, and you know, I'm thinking about how the notion of loss means that it's always unintentional. Like, we never intend to lose something, otherwise it wouldn't be a loss. Mm-hmm. Right? It's always a surprise. It's always a I wish that didn't happen kind of a thing. And I'm trying, and the wiser part of me recognizes that it's an opportunity. You know, grief, and we talk about good grief, and loss being an opportunity to look at what can emerge in its place, like the person I've emerged into in the place of my younger self, and who we've emerged into as a mature couple, and, you know, all of that. And then I just kind of had this moment of realizing that, you know, these things that I feel like I've lost never really belonged to me in the first place. And so with that view, it's a different experience. You know, it's more of a carriage. It's like the thing that the relationship that I had, or the person that I had, or the animal that I had, or whatever it is that I think I've lost, I was just a part of its passage from, you know, and it feels different that way. It's more of a celebration of being, of facilitating the normal evolution and transition of things and people and, you know, stuff and animals, and so thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
So I want to add, this reminds me of the song from Wicked, Rachel, when I have been changed for good.
Yeah.
Sing to each other about whatever happens in the future, you know, their relationship, they have changed for good, and the double entendre of, you know, of what good means.
Right.
But anyway, that just rang very loudly when you say you facilitated somebody else's life, but they facilitated yours too.
That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Time.
It's that time.
Yeah. What did I say? I've just been. I guess this weekend I've been really struck with how supportive a sangha is, even if you're just sitting next to people. I just felt like the field that I was in over this past weekend was just, it just was quite nourishing. Like, regardless, it just kind of felt like you're swimming in an ocean of life energy, you know, and it kind of helps me to recognize just the value of groups and people, and the kind of inherent contribution to my life, and to recognize that it's just easier to do it with other people. Life's just easier with other people. I mean, I'm sure there can be problems, but it's like, it just seems more more conducive to just a happier existence in general, I guess. Yeah, just having some sort of sense that, yeah, just the inherent value of people, the inherent value of the Sangha, and the kind of, yeah, group feel that's generated that gives, I mean, some sort of clarity that I was getting, just clarity about life, what I want, what's supportive, what makes me happy, and just clear thoughts, clear emotions, feelings of nourishment, and it was just it's an insight that I think I have to keep coming back to, because it seems like it's a lot harder to hang out with people if you're not, like, if you have to make the effort and find them and do all that. It seems like it can be a lot of, well, why don't I just do things on my own right now? But it's like, okay, yeah, there's some sort of just, yeah, recognition. Is what I've been feeling. Gratitude. What's gratitude? That is stop.
Well,
Chris.
yeah, Chris, good you're with us. What do you think? What are you feeling?
Well, I guess um uh, not knowing is something that I try to explore often. Most of us are kind of stuck in trying to know everything, especially in our culture, in this country. We kind of want to be in control of everything and intellectualize everything um, and resist that openness of just exploring reality without really knowing all the answers. And you know, I remember there's a quote. Socrates said that there's anything I don't, if there's anything I know is that I know nothing, or something along those lines. And Lao Tzu said that those who say they know don't know, and those who know don't talk about it, which I was always impressed by. And there's also a koan where the master asks the pupil, what is he doing? Or what are you going to be doing? What are you going to do? And he said something along the lines, well, I guess I'll go on a spiritual journey. And the master says, well, why are you going to do that? And he says, I don't know. And the master says, good. Not knowing is most intimate. So that's a really powerful koan to me, because half the time I don't know what I'm doing or why I'm doing it, you know. And maybe that's okay. Maybe there's some other broader intelligence that's kind of guiding the events surrounding us. And I guess what we can do is just show up and get out of the way. Sometimes the best thing to do.
I just want to say, interestingly, bizarrely, last night I read a passage about Descartes, who's famous for saying, I know the 4 I am. And I always thought, as I think most culture, that's how I interpreted it, that knowing is very important, and without knowing, you're nothing. You only know because you're only something, you're only aiming because you know. Well, it turns out that it was completely the wrong way to understand Descartes. The man was a very big negator. He did not buy or accept anything at face value. And he sat there and refuted and negated what, based on inquiry, and kept looking for substance. What is real was his inquiry. What is really real? And he did a lot of inquiry, and every single time he came with, well, there's nothing real there. There's nothing real there. There's nothing real there. Until one day he understood who he was, and that his M-ness in his knowing is not real. And so his statement, I know therefore I am, is reductionistic. I'm a lot more than what I know. And that's not my M-ness. The juxtaposition of the timing is profound, I think.
My father was a scientist and engineer. Early in his life, he became an atheist at age 12 because his young brother died at 3 months, and they had to baptize him so the baby wouldn't go to hell. He said, "There's no God that would put a baby to hell. I'm an atheist." And studied hard, was the brightest in his clan. Married another bright woman that gave birth to us and our family. And I remember driving across South Dakota in the spring. It was green. He and I were going to visit Grandpa, 300 miles away, the other side of South Dakota. And he said, the more I know I don't know. Which shows that knowing is important, but also seeing that the boundary of knowing is just the beginning. And so there is importance in knowing, but holding on to that's all I know, or it's needs to be blown open like that. And he never did psychedelics. It was before my sojourn into it, about a year before he died. And, an important revelation to bring peace probably to his consciousness of that lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Wow.
Enough?
Just enough.
Just enough. May our intentions equally extend to every being and place with the true merit of the Buddha way. Beings are numberless, we vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible, we vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless, we vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable, we vow to be it. Thanks for joining us, David and Melanie. Hope you see some white snow in the distant mountains or the nearby mountains.
Yeah. Or right outside the door.
Right outside the door. Oh, yay.
Oh, wow.
Thanks for joining us, Chris, this morning.
Chris. Bye, Mel. Bye, Dave.
Okay, bye-bye.
See you next time, soon,
Bye.
hopefully.
Oh, you're gonna finish that?
Thanks, John.
Recording, where's the recording?
Are you coming to the boat today?
No,
You don't want to?
I mean, I'm not,
Yeah, I know.
yeah,
But if you
it's
want
okay.
to, you can.
Thank you.
If you want to, you
I
can.
have to pack.
All right.